Hey guys, what's going on? I promised that I would do a showing of the build system, so here I am to do that. For those of you that have never built anything with wood before, this was my first wood project too. I've never touched a saw in my life. So if you are at all capable mechanically of doing things, if you work on your own car, if you change your brakes, you change your oil, you are already going to have a head start at doing this. If you've never touched anything like that before, but you want to try doing something like this and you're interested in working with your hands, be careful, but you can totally do this. Like I said, I've never had any experience building anything. My dad never worked on anything. He had a friend come over and help us. So just to give you an idea of my level of expertise when it comes to building stuff, I reference a lot of stuff online. In the description, I will put the 2 links that I reference as far as what I used as ideas for this build, and then I made some small changes. I'm gonna do my best to reference what I used exactly, and I'm gonna tell you what I did to make it work for me. So we're gonna start here. It's a little messy in the back right now, but I'm gonna try and move things around so you guys have an idea of what it is I built, why I built things a certain way, etc., and we'll go from there. So let's do it. I just got back from taking the truck out this weekend, so my blankets and everything are back here. I don't really need to move everything for you to see it. I went with a dual drawer setup, and this is a completely modular system. So my back seats are still usable. I just have to flip everything forward and pull the cushion back in order to be able to use those seats, but they are still fully functional. I didn't get rid of the actual seat portion, which would have given me about 5 extra inches of headspace, but I'm only 5'8", so I fit in here comfortably with my knees or my legs slightly pulled up. It's not a hindrance to me at all whatsoever. If you're taller than 5'8" or 5'9", you might want to consider not using your back seats. First things first, with the 2 drawers, I have 125-pound locking slides. You do not need to do this. This is a very expensive build when it comes to builds. Also, I bought wood at probably the absolute worst time you could want to do a build. So if this video has been posted for the next year or 2, I'd really like to know what you spent on your build, because my wood cost me about $180 for 3 full sheets of sanded ply. It was higher quality ply. I think the cost of each sheet was about $60. I have a friend that gets discounts, so I ended up paying just over $50 for each sheet, and then I bought screws and all that stuff. So the day that I bought my wood and all the little accessories and stuff I needed, I ended up paying about $180 for everything. Like I said, I have 2 sets of locking drawer slides. So one of the things I wanted too was a handle to be able to pull on it fully stock. I repurposed some extra wood that I had laying around, and I cut out a small hole so I can fit 3 fingers in there if needed. Essentially what you do is you lift up and you pull. Once each of the drawer slides gets over the little lip, you're able to pull out completely. And here you can see how much space I actually have. For reference, if you've ever eaten one of those, you know how big they are and about how thin they are. The drawers are about 16.5 or 16.75 inches, and they're about 3 feet long. I'm gonna do my best to make sure that you guys have all of the schematics, all of the proper lengths and everything in the description. So if you decide to copy my build, you know, screw for screw, piece for piece, it'll be very easy for you, much easier for you than it was for me, and you'll have an idea of how to cut things. And I'll also make a few suggestions at the end of things that you should have, extra tools you should have that I didn't have, that will make your job a lot easier and make everything fit a little bit better than mine does. So as you can tell, there's plenty of drawer space, and in order to prove that, I'm going to open the other drawer right now so you can see how much space there actually is and what will fit in here. Again, on this side, you're going to lift both handles, pull it out till it gets over the first lip right here, and then I can pull with 3 fingers and open the entire drawer. Just to give you an idea of everything that fits in here, this is a Camp Chef cooking stove. It's probably one of the better stoves you can buy on the market. I got this used for about $50 on OfferUp. Works really good. It burns very high, but it's quite large, and it fits in here just perfect. It's just shy, I think, of 14 inches, maybe just shy of 15. It's large enough that it will do the job with a cast iron as well as another pot. It's dual burner, but it's not so big that it doesn't fit in these drawers. And it is robust. It's not ridiculously heavy. I don't know the exact specs of how heavy the Camp Chef cooker is, but as you can see, the drawer is handling that perfectly. If you do have heavier stuff, I suggest putting it more towards the rear of the drawer so you don't have any issues. But so far I used it all weekend for the first time and have had no problems. I'm in Milwaukee right now. If you've been keeping up with any of the videos, I came out here for an internship. I just got here a week ago. So these drawers were filled with all my clothes and everything that I had that I brought out with me here. Once I got here, I moved into my place, I pulled everything out, put everything in the house, and I was able to kind of get this full. So let's give you an over the top view so you can kind of see how much stuff I have in here. Again, Camp Chef, and the pan laying flat fits perfectly. No rubbing or anything in there. If it were to be any taller, it might rub. You could probably even put a few things inside the pan yourself if you wanted to conserve a little bit of space. This is just a bunch of junk food I had for the weekend, things I just wanted for the, to go. But I have plenty of space here if I wanted to add extra utensils and whatnot. I've got a full size thing of pepper. I use a lot of pepper and salt, so having a large container of pepper is a necessity for me. I have my salt in the other drawer, and then just a bunch of other little things, but you can all tell that these are all very large items. You could buy the bagged cup of noodles and stuff like that and make everything way easier, but I wasn't traveling for a long time, so I didn't need to really conserve space, and I made it work. So you could definitely stack between the two drawers enough clothes for a week that you could keep washing, and food for 2 or 3 weeks if you really were all about it. While we're on this side, I'm going to show you the inconsistencies or the problems that I had with the build that I think could be done better if I were to have a straight line tool or a Craig. I'll link that on the description below and you can pick one up. If you already have a circular saw, then you probably already know what it is. For those of you that don't know, I didn't see the point in spending another $120. I bought a lot of tools for this job, but I planned on using them later, so that was how I was able to justify spending so much on this build. I think I'm gonna get into building these and doing some kits in the future where I cut everything in advance and then sell the kits to people, and then people just put it together themselves. If that's something that you would be interested in, do me a favor, drop in the comments and let me know what you think, because that is definitely a business venture I've thought of. It would streamline the whole process. With the price of wood right now, it would be quite expensive. If the price of wood dropped, it would still probably be cheaper and way less time consuming for me to build a kit and you to pay a premium for those already pre-cut pieces and just have to put it together yourself. So let's get into what the issues are. I'm not sure if this was an issue with the flooring after the fact and realizing, but I had to use shims on the center and the right side if you're looking towards the front of the box. For some reason, either the floor dropped there more or I made a really bad cut. It wasn't horrible and it wasn't horrendous all the way through, but if you do have that Craig straight tool, you'll get real clean, nice cuts all the way from one end to the other without issue, and it shouldn't sag whatsoever. Also, some other small issues and problems that I had, you can kind of see here, there is a little bit of a sag or like an angle that the wood is at. It doesn't really affect the usability of it. There were just some minor incremental issues and like things that didn't line up perfectly that I noticed. But again, for someone who built something for the first time, I'm really happy with how this came out. I've had no issues with using it. I drove it 2,000 miles between Southern California and Wisconsin. A lot of bumpy roads, a lot of mountains, things jarring around, etc. No issues, nothing got messed up. The drawer slides hold extremely well. Nothing has shifted or caused any issues whatsoever. Next thing is going to be the cubby holes on the side. I still wanted to be able to have access to this body panel. So like most people that have done a build, I put hinges in on the top so you can completely access this hole right here. It makes it easier to be able to put pots and pans here too. You could put a bunch of stuff in there, anything for recovery equipment, etc., as far as in this hole down here at the bottom. But being able to get in here was really important to me, so I made sure that I was able to access that area. The same thing goes for the other side. But as you can tell, there is a cubby hole right here, and you can, if you need to, really get in there, you can lift it up like that. Just to show you the type of hinge I used, I'll have them linked to Amazon in my description for you guys to pick up as well. Next thing you're probably wondering about too is the carpet that I have laid down. It was the absolute cheapest carpet I could buy from Home Depot right there and then. I'm sure I probably could have gotten something better on Amazon or another website if I wanted to go that route, but I knew I was going to lay a lot of blankets down on top of my 4-inch memory foam. which is a full-size memory foam mattress that I ordered from Amazon. But in order to get it to fit in the rear, I had to cut about 5 to 6 inches off from the base. So it's still as wide as a full would be, but it's about 5 or 6 inches shorter, and it fits comfortably in there without issue. Me and my girlfriend slept in this multiple nights on the road trip. With the exception of me being a really wild sleeper and bumping into her, we slept pretty comfortable. Next, I'm also going to talk about this piece right here. Some people might be wondering what this is. This is a 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch piece. This one was kind of a crappy piece, but it holds through all the way with screws, so I'm not worried about it being a little messed up here. But it runs from the very front of the box to the very back of the box. And as you can see right here, it just provides support to the slat. So this slat isn't just completely relying on the hinge that is running along the top side here. This slat really provides some good support to this, so when you're laying on it, you're not stressing the hinge. It would still be supported, there wouldn't be an issue. Now your body's gonna be splayed out across the entire thing, so you shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. But again, it didn't take me that long, and the piece itself was fairly cheap. I think I got 2 or 3 1.5 inch by like 8 foot pieces for like $3 or $4 a piece. So to me, the peace of mind and getting it was way better than not purchasing it. The last thing that I'm going to talk about here in the rear is the turnbuckles. These turnbuckles are way overkill for this build, which is exactly what I wanted. I think each of them is rated at a couple hundred pounds. They are used to keep the build planted and not shaking or moving around. It helps keep everything secure. My local Home Depot didn't have any of the turnbuckles I was looking for, so I had to order them from Amazon. So again, another thing you'll find in the description. They came pretty quickly, and I was able to get this built in about a week. So there were some parts I had to order on the fly, things that I was missing, etc., that got to me very fast. So if you live in a pretty decently populated area or close to, you know, civilization in a sense, it shouldn't take too long to get anything extra that you may need. And again, I did the same for the right side that I did for the left side. Next, we're going to talk about the main supporting pieces if you sleep with your head on this side. Last night I slept with my head on the other side, and it was comfortable. Also, being in here, you can sleep diagonally, and it kind of gives you a little bit more room. It almost feels like you have a queen size bed, but if you're in here with someone else, then you obviously don't have that luxury, but it's pretty decent. Like I mentioned before, I wanted a modular system. I wanted to be able to utilize these back seats if I wanted. Considering I don't use them often, I wanted to be able to lay this down and still have storage space underneath. So what I did was I got an idea from another video where this guy got these foldable hinges, and I utilized those. Now, one issue I did recognize, and I don't know if it's just my car or whatever, but the passenger side hinges actually needed to be longer than the driver side hinges. These were 7 inches and the other side was 6. So I recommend measuring and double checking. You can see that it's almost flat and flush across from here to over there. There's a slight difference. You shouldn't notice that difference at all once all the weight and everything is on there. That being said, let me show you how these come up, and if you were to remove the bed from the rear, you can still utilize the back seats. Okay, let's say you want to go to the beach or do something with your friends and you decide that you want to drive. You can go ahead and pull the foam mattress out of the back of your car. It's very simple with the hinges that I bought, which were recommended from another YouTube video. All you do is go underneath, release the locking latch, flip them down, do the same on the other side, push in, flip down, and that's just so the legs don't rub on this part right here when you lift up. Now the hinges will allow you to move freely, flip up and over, and they'll lay flat for the most part. No issues there whatsoever. Clearance is good. You can lift the seats up, lock it in place, then you take the front seat, pull the headrest out, lock it down. Your seats are fully usable. I don't drive people that often, so keeping it in the sleeping platform position for me isn't an issue. And I get the added benefit of having space underneath the sleeping platform for extra storage and whatnot. It's as easy to set up as it is to put away. You just fold your seats back as you would normally. You reach back, pull it forward, and then once you've got it down to where you need it to go, you just fold the legs down, and no problems whatsoever. It's the same for both sides. One thing you do have to take into account, and you have to make sure your cuts are very accurate, are for the seat latches right here. If you watched my video of me getting ready to leave for this road trip, you'll notice that I took a piece of cardboard back here and was essentially sketching it out. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take that cardboard based on the dimensions that are in the description for that piece, and you're gonna come back here and you're just gonna kind of set it up. Once you have your box built, that's the easiest way to do it, because once your box is built, you're gonna line up the corner of the cardboard with the corner of the box here, have it sit vertical, and you're gonna wanna cut away the corner first. So you'll use a pen, Sharpie, whatever, preferably a pencil, so you don't mark the roof. You're gonna make your marks and then just start trimming away slowly but surely. And you should get a fairly curved corner. Make sure you mark the spot for your latch, which will be a small square. Then you're gonna be able to get it through. Okay, you don't need to try and get as fancy with it as I did, but part of the reason I cut here was that it fits perfectly in this notch, as you can see. If you don't want to do that, you can cut it a little shorter or just cut a direct angle here, but mine fits so good that it actually fits directly in that notch. Again, just a consideration. This could have probably been a little bit nicer, but again, it's just mine and it didn't bother me that much, so I wasn't worried. What I was talking about over here though is this square needs to be placed perfectly so when your flap lifts up, this goes right through it. And here's what I mean as to why you need to have it perfectly cut. When you lift up, that latch needs to go through there, and you want enough space that it's not rubbing and not an issue at all. As you can see with mine, there are no problems getting it through, and it comes right back down where it needs to. Once it's down, I go underneath like this, I flip the legs down, it locks into place. These latches are really great because they have locking mechanisms on here. They're spring-loaded push buttons. So if you're laying down and you do bounce around, etc., there's no chance that they're going to close on you by accident. I just utilized some of that 1.5 inch wood that I had and screwed it into the latch. And now when I want to use it, I just push in and close. One thing is it does not lock on the close, it only locks on the open. So when you go to open it, you don't have to latch it, it just automatically kicks in and will not close. You have to push in and it closes. One thing I want to mention, when I was scouring the internet looking for ideas, one of the builds said to use the same 1.5 inch piece from this end to the other end of the box as a support for these flaps like we did on the sides. But the problem with putting a 1.5 inch piece back here is it would have made the box a little bit more shallow, because you need to have space for 1.5 inches of wood to not dig into the back of your seats. So as you can tell, what I did was I used a little bit of the ply, the leftover that I had, and just cut a small support and screwed it into the back of the box without issue. I used screws that are the proper size. I believe these were 2.5 inch screws, and they stuck out just barely on the back, and all I did was grind them down once they stuck out, but it was like millimeters difference. It didn't cause a problem whatsoever. So as you can tell, the support here does in fact support the flap without any issue, and so I didn't run into any clearance issues between the box and the flaps. I made sure, and this is very important, if you don't do this you might run into clearance issues. The hinges I used are very simple door style hinges or cabinet hinges, but I made sure that the top portion went on the main platform and then the other part of the hinge went underneath. The reason I set the hinges up the way that I did was because then you get the best use of your flaps and it lays completely flat how you would want it, versus if you had it the other way, it would actually end up being on top of itself. I found this to be a better way of setting it up, and the hinges work flawlessly without issue. So last but not least is just to show you what it looks like when I'm in here. Again, this is a 4-inch memory foam mattress on top of what is already about an 8.5 to 9 inch high drawer system. Because the head side is built so sturdy, I have complete confidence getting in from here and being able to put my entire weight on this. There's no issue. It does help if you have running boards. I know no one likes them and they're ugly. I have mine on still, at least until I can purchase a set of rock sliders and get them installed. But it actually is a benefit because it makes getting in here easier. So you can just step in, you can put your entire weight on it, and I have no issues or problems with getting in. Kick your shoes off or whatever, store them underneath before you get all the way in, and then lay down however you want. This is a really good build for someone who is a beginner. I highly suggest, if you have the capability and the wherewithal to at least try or practice doing something like this, to give it a shot. This probably would have cost $1,200 to have someone build it for me, and I'm sure it would have been absolutely perfect and pristine, but I also would have had to wait, and I didn't have the time, and I like working with my hands and giving myself projects. That being said, there might be some things in the future I would do to change this, and if so, I'm sure there'd be someone willing to give me at least what this thing cost in wood and the drawer slides to swap it over to their truck. I highly suggest, if you have it within your capabilities, go ahead and give it a shot. Do me a favor, if you aren't already subscribed, please consider hitting the subscribe button for future updates on my 3rd gen. I love traveling, camping, trying to get into fishing, and I would love your support. If you decided to follow me, that would be really awesome. Additionally, hitting the thumbs up button and leaving me a comment letting me know what you thought about this build. I'm always looking for advice or insight. I try to take criticism well, really helps me. The channel's been growing a lot, been getting a lot of views on some of my stuff, so I have you guys to thank for that. Please let me know if you decided to use this as a base for your build and what changes you made to suit your needs. I look forward to hearing back from you guys. From me and Faith, thank you. We'll see you on the next one.